Hello and welcome to lesson 9.4. Today we're going to look at multiplying special cases, and this is the part 1 video. As you're going to see today in the part 1 video is we're going to look at finding the square of a binomial, and we'll talk about what that means here in a few moments. And in the part 2 video we're going to look at the differences of squares. So to look at a square of a binomial, first of all we have to understand what they're asking. The square of something, remember, is something being raised to the second power. And a binomial is just two terms of a polynomial. Okay, so in this case, I have a plus b, which is my binomial, and I'm going to take that whole quantity and I'm going to square that. And I'm going to tell you right now, make this a big not equal sign. This is not equal to a squared plus b squared. So please do not ever write that, because that is not correct. Okay, if we were to go and FOIL this, and I'm going to do this down below, and I have a plus b the quantity squared. Remember, this really gives me a plus b times a quantity of a plus b. So with this means we have to FOIL or distribute. So a times a is going to give me a squared. A times b is going to give me plus ab. Then I have b times a, which is the same thing as a times b. So I'm going to write that as plus ab plus and b squared. So I end up with this right here. When I collect my like terms, I end up with a squared plus I have an ab plus another ab, so that gives me 2ab plus b squared. And this is my final answer. As you can see, that is very different than just a squared plus b squared. So please, again, do not ever do this. And we're going to just scribble that right off. So if you look at this, you can see from this little table here that the square of a binomial is going to be, and if this top one here says a plus b, if that quantity is being squared, which is kind of what we worked out over here, we're going to take the first term, which is a, and we're going to square it. We're going to take the two terms, multiply them together, which is my ab here, and then I'm going to multiply that answer by 2, and that will become my middle term of my trinomial, and then I'm going to square the third term. Now the same thing is true for this a minus b squared. The only difference is that my middle term is going to be negative, because if I look down here at this where I did my work, if this was a negative in here, then this would be minus AB, and then this becomes a minus. I'd have a negative AB plus another negative AB, which would give me a negative 2AB here. The B is going to stay positive, or the B squared, because then that would be a negative B times a negative B, and a negative times a negative is a positive. So if I have a difference of binomials and I'm squaring them, it's a squared minus 2 times a quantity of a times b plus this last term squared. Now notice I did put the note down here. You can use the FOIL and distribution method like what I did here if you don't want to memorize this. However, multiplying and factoring, which is what we're going to be doing here in another couple sections, but these are things that are not going away anytime in your math futures. So if you can kind of think about this as like a shortcut, this is going to save you a lot of time down the road. We have b times b, which is, so example 1, we can see how this property applies. So if you remember, and I'm just going to write this up here at the top, right here are the formulas that were just on the other page. So if I look at part A, I have y plus 11, and that whole quantity is being squared. So that's really going to look like this top scenario here. So in this case, if you want to just kind of list things out like it's written, my a term is really going to be my y. My b term is really 11. So when I go to apply this, this tells me to take my a term and square it. Well, in this case, that's going to be my y. So I have y squared. Because I have addition here in the middle, I'm going to make this plus 2 times my a value, which we said was y, and my b value, which is 11. Then I'm going to add that to my b value, which we said was 11, and we are going to square that. So if you want to, now we can simplify, and I end up with y squared plus 2 times y times 11 is 22y plus 11 squared is 121. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, the more you do of these, you are not going to have to identify what things are like this right here. You will honestly be able to do this in your head if you try to use the formulas right now. Let's try to do the same thing for part B. So this 3w is going to be my a, and I have a -6, which is my b value. So when I go to apply the property listed above, it says take my first term and square it. So that's my 3w, and I'm going to square that. Because I'm subtracting here in the middle, that means my second term is going to be subtracted. I'm going to go 2 times my a value, which was 3w, and my b value, which is 6. You don't have to worry about the negative because we're already accounting for that here in this negative sign. And then my last term is always going to be a positive, and I have a b value of 6, and I'm going to square that. So when we simplify this, the quantity of 3w squared, if you remember, we distribute that square into everything. So that's 9w squared minus 2 times 3w times 6 is going to give us 36w plus 6 squared, which is 36. And this here is our final answer. Please take a quick second, pause the video, and try these two on your own. For those of you that like to label, this right here is my a term. This right here is my b term. So I have my first term squared, or 7m squared, minus 2 times my first term, which was 7m, times my second term, which in this case is 2p, plus, because my last term is always a plus, and I did have a subtraction here in the middle, again, because I have a subtraction here. So to go back, now I'm going to add my second term, which in this case is 2p, and we're going to square that. So now I'm just going to simplify. 7m squared will give me 49m squared minus 2 times 7 times 4 is 28, and then I have the variables m and p in the mix as well, plus 2p squared really becomes 4p squared. And this here is my final answer. For part B, I have 5y is my a term, 1 is my b term, and we are adding. So this gives me my first term squared plus 2 times my first term times my second term plus my second term squared. And when I simplify, we end up with 25y squared plus 10y plus 1. And this is going to conclude our part 1 video. Please let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, good luck and have a great day.